Hey guys, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit briefly about this group and neurodivergence and how it's a little bit different. So, for those of you who know me on any level, you kind of know that I take a really more holistic approach to anything that I do. I've been living a pretty holistic lifestyle when it comes to managing our health or managing anything that's going on with us for some time now, like probably 10, 11 years now, like a really long time. I started when my kids were in high school, and so they're like the youngest one's like 26. So I want to say probably about 11 years now we've been living in a much more holistic lifestyle. We are not against Western medicine. We just use it sparingly. So it has a place. So our bodies are really kind of meant to heal themselves and are able to use other things to help heal it or to help manage things that go on with us. And then modern medicine has a place for more kind of extreme cases or cases where you need modern medicine, Western medicine intervention. But a lot of Western medicine is used way more extensively than it really needs to be. So, with that being said, if you have followed me, known me, you will know that I take a more holistic approach to a lot of things. So, I also have taken that with neurodivergence. And so, we're going to talk a little bit more in this group, a little bit at a time, about how I've kind of walked that path with neurodivergence, because everybody's familiar with Western medicine and how Western medicine addresses neurodivergence. And that's great. And that's fine. And if that's you, that is you. And that if it works for you, that is great. And that might even be a necessity, even if you walk this path, right? So just keep in mind that this space or this place is not against Western medicine or Western interventions. It's just sometimes, or in my case, I like to try other things first. So we're going to talk about some of those other things that you can use or utilize or go through and use and understand more about yourself, and what type of interventions might actually be best for you. So years ago, I say years ago, I really just discovered my neurodivergence in my late 40s. And about that time is when I came across something that turned out to be super important to me. And that is our genetics. Okay. And so our genetics plays a huge part in everything, like our health, our mental health, whatever. It plays a huge part in our entire life. And I came to realize how much it actually played, right? So our DNA sets the precedence, or could set the precedence for everything, but our lifestyle contributes to that. And what we do in our everyday choices kind of makes our situation look a little better or makes our situation look a little worse. So the first thing, or the one thing that I have found to be have been the most valuable source I have come across, period, was getting my genetics done and then getting those read by a neuropath. Okay. So the genetic screening that you do for Western intervention is different than the genetic screening that I'm talking about here. Okay. So the genetic screening that you get done for Western intervention is great also. And if you're going to use Western medicine intervention, I 100% highly suggest that you do the genetic DNA screening for any sort of pharmaceutical medications. And here is why. Because our genetics play into how well our body responds to those Western medications, okay? So they do a DNA swab and they take that and they compare it with they compare Western pharmaceutical medications to your genetics, and they tell you which ones would work better for you, which ones you should kind of proceed with caution with, and which ones you should probably stay away from because your genetics show that you would probably have pretty significant side effects with them, okay? So that genetic screening is different from the genetic screening that I'm talking about. I'm talking about a full genetic screening where you would use something like Ancestry or 23andMe or MyHeritage, and you would actually do the DNA swab, right? Now they promote it in such a way, DNA swab or this spit test, they promote it in such a way that let's learn what your heritage is. Are you European? Are you Native American? Are you South African? What are you, right? They promote it in that way. But the good thing about that is once you do that DNA testing, you can download the raw data. And when you download the raw data, you can provide it to someone who is capable of reading it and telling you where you may have some concerns in your DNA that might affect you in your daily functioning. Okay. So that is where my naturopath comes in. So then you download that raw data and you find yourself a naturopath, which I have and I use on a regular basis. And what you would do is you would send that information to a naturopath and she would read it and she would look for any concerns in your genetics, any mutations in your genetics, places in your genetics that you might have predispositions to things. That doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily express those, but you have predispositions and what those are and how you might avoid expressing those genes, right? And even if you have a gene that has been turned on, which is epigenetics, you have the ability to change your daily things and eventually in time turn that gene off. Okay. And so that is the importance of genetics, because a lot of times those of us who have neurodivergence, there is not one gene that indicates, oh, you're neurodivergent. It's not. It is a cluster or a grouping of certain genes that give off the symptoms of neurodivergence. Okay. So when you kind of get to the point where I can identify those genes, and then you can supplement those genes or change your daily actions to help those genes, then you make a difference in your symptoms. Isn't that amazing? Right? So the idea, though, first and foremost, is you have to know what those genes are, right? And then you have to find someone that can read those genes. And then you have to find someone that can tell you what those genes mean and then tell you what you might be able to do to better help yourself and the cluster of symptoms that you are suffering with or that you are experiencing, right? And that is what we're going to start talking more about in this group. Okay. So I just wanted to give this little video as a little precursor so that you can understand, like, the main focus in this group is not going to be Western medicine. You can find that anywhere, right? The main focus in this group is going to be how do we address our neurodivergency in a holistic fashion, in a holistic way. And you don't have to do that. Like, really, the information that I provide in this group is really for everyone. But this particular little element is going to be a way to address the symptoms and the things you have going on in your neurodivergence in a more holistic way. Because I feel like Western medicine totally has that covered. You can go anywhere and receive instruction on how to use Western medicine to address your neurodivergence. Some people have used that and it's super successful for them and it works really, really well. Some people have tried that route or it's sort of helping, but it's not really helping and they really feel like they need more assistance. And that might be where this comes in, or the person who's just like, I just don't want to go that route. I just don't want to do that. So I've just been raw dogging it all this time. Me raw dogging it all this time. And I just need some assistance. And this is a different approach to that. And I can tell you that it has been super beneficial to me to have had this ability to walk this path. And I just want to give this opportunity to other people too, because I feel like it's so beneficial. So hang on, and we're just going to be dropping little paths and ways to start that, and how you can actually get that assistance and maybe understand it a little bit more and why and how it can be beneficial to you and your cluster of symptoms or your symptoms of neurodivergence.